being a climate advocate over the past 15 or 20 years, it's not been easy. I think a lot of y'all who have been in this movement can relate. We fought so hard, so many of us fought across Georgia to elect leaders that were going to pass transformational bills. We finally did it. And last year, our organization at GCB was doing everything we could to get these climate dollars to communities. I mean, we're talking about a solar program where low-income communities could finally benefit. Opportunities to really clean up EJ communities that have been suffering for years and years. That was our moment, right? And then last year happened at the end of the election. And it was hard to pull myself back up. And a lot of the folks in our coalition were struggling. Meanwhile, in Georgia Power was marching ahead, deciding that they were going to keep dirty coal plants online, that they were going to build new gas plants because of all these data centers popping up. And as Jasmine highlighted, power bills are going up, and Georgians are really suffering from this economic issue. So, I posed the question: how do we remain hopeful? How do we build power and thrive despite all of these challenges, knowing that climate is getting worse and people are continuing to suffer? So I promise I'll answer that question, but first we're going to go time travel a little bit and go back to my college years, about 10, 15 years ago. And first couple of years I was having a good time, y'all. We weren't the #1 party school at UGA for any reason, right? I was having a good time. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was really lucky to stumble upon some incredible activists that told me about this campaign that was happening, UGA Beyond Coal. We had this outdated, dirty coal boiler on campus, and they said, come join the fight, we've got to get rid of this. And so I started learning. These students became my professors. I learned about environmental justice, I learned about the issues on campus, and I learned about activism. So we were out there collecting petitions, trying to get students engaged, trying to turn up the heat, and our goal was to meet with the administration. They taught me about power mapping. We have to figure out who the decision makers are, right? So we start to meet with, we start to crank up our advocacy, but they won't meet with us. Okay, so we escalate it, right? We start getting stories in the paper. We protested the Board of Regents meeting and got kicked out. Eventually they were like, these students are really becoming a pain in our ass, so fine, we'll meet with them, And I'm like, this is great, we'll meet with the adults in the room, we'll tell them about the problem, and we're just gonna solve this, right? So, y'all know where this goes, right? We met with them, they're scoffing at us like we're just a bunch of kids, which they're not wrong. And they started asking us the question of well, we have to get our power from somewhere, so what do you suggest? And I'm thinking I don't know, I haven't gotten that far yet. So we leave that meeting a little discouraged, but we start doing our research. We're like, okay, let's figure it out. We're learning about clean energy, right? And the incredible opportunities that we can have if we made the transition to wind and solar, and that it's cheaper, right? And we start learning about okay, we gotta power map this more because these administrators aren't being helpful at all, right? So where does the power come from? It comes from Georgia Power. But shoot, they're a monopoly. So nothing we can do about that. Finally, we had a breakthrough when we learned about the Georgia Public Service Commission. Okay, so these are 5 elected officials that we, the people of Georgia, get to elect so that they can protect us and show up for us, right? They make decisions about what kind of clean energy or really energy that we have access to. They make decisions about our power bills, right? And they're supposed to show up to protect us from monopoly. But we keep doing our research and we're learning they're not really doing anything to protect us. And the hardest thing about this is that they're widely unknown. So fast forward to now, I've been reflecting about this. What's changed since this time? And I certainly didn't know that this was going to become my career work of trying to push this Public Service Commission and push these utilities across the South, right? But some great things have happened. Coal plants are retiring, and a couple years after I graduated from UGA, they retired that coal boiler, right? It's okay, maybe as kids we're onto something, right? Clean energy boom. Clean energy has become incredibly cheap, booming all across the country, and we're seeing that in Georgia. But one of the most important things that's changed is the climate movement. It's more diverse, it's more people-centered, it's more creative, and it's really actually driven by representing the EJ communities that are the most impacted, and that's the work that we do at GCB that I'm so proud of. So then I started thinking about this more, and I'm like, you know what hasn't changed since that time that I was at UGA? the PSC. I mean, y'all, Tim Eccles, he was elected in 2010 when I started doing this work. And while some of these faces may have changed, what they're doing is the same, right? They're just backing what the power company wants. They take money from those utility execs to run their campaigns, so they're just rubber stamping everything. We're not getting those opportunities. Meanwhile, Georgia's bills are going up, averaging $500 a year because of choices that the Public Service Commission has made to continue to rubber stamp what Georgia Power wants, and just continue to approve those rate hikes. And we've got a lot of issues with our air and water because of it. Like I mentioned earlier, they've made the decision to keep some of the dirtiest coal plants online. But, you know, like I said, widely unknown, over the past 4 or 5 years, GCB has been really hard at work to crank up the pressure and make sure folks know who the PSC is and know the impact of the decisions that they're making. We've done over here resilience workshops where we're showing up in community, offering to pay power bills, and really meeting people where they're at, but also doing education about this issue. Our communications director has an amazing influencer program going on right now to make sure that we're meeting people where they're at online with folks that they really trust. Last year, even though our elections were late and canceled, which that would be a whole other Spark Talk to tell you about over the last 4 years, but we decided we're still going to reach people. We're going to send mailers. We're going to do education ahead of the election that would eventually come. And finally, our team's been working really hard. We've been getting press all across the country, including the New York Times. Finally, these two are up for election, Tim Eccles and Fitz Johnson. So, y'all, we're less than 5 weeks away from a monumental election. There's more elections next year. So by the end of 2026, we can flip this. We can have 3 clean energy champions on the commission. It's an incredible opportunity. And GCB Action Fund, along with an amazing group of coalition members, has been working really hard to figure out how we can win this election. We're super hopeful. We did polling in May that shows that 63% of Democrats are very motivated compared to just 53% of Republicans to turn out. 45% choose a Democrat, while just 42% chose a Republican. And rising power bills, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, is a winning message that is really going to move voters. Tim Eccles and Fitz Johnson have voted at least 10 times during their tenure to raise rates, and that is the center of our entire campaign. Which, check out theyraisedyourbill.com, new website we just launched. And they're scared, y'all. They're seeing the same stuff that we are, these incumbent Republicans. You might have seen that they tried to pass this rate freeze at the beginning of the year, which I say that's kind of like if you're at the grocery store and the eggs are $20 and they say, don't worry, we won't make them 25, right? That's not going to do anything to bring relief to families. Y'all, Tim Eccles is so scared he's praying for hail, okay? He said, I'm praying for torrential rain on election day. Hail would be even better. So that shows y'all what this opportunity really looks like and the opportunity we have to win. And here's what we're doing to campaign to win. We are targeting 850,000 voters across the state. It's a statewide election. We expect a lower turnout, but what we see is the high-end win number is 750,000 voters, so we're going beyond that to make sure we're getting the voters that we need to win. We have raised over $2 million for this election, and really excited about the opportunity, grateful for the support, but we can't stop now. We know that those Republican PACs are coming, and we have to go toe-to-toe with them. And lastly, we're running a really strong coalition. We are not doing this alone. Tactics include mail, digital, text, phones, radio, billboards, doors, all of the things we need to turn out voters in a low information statewide election this year. So I think we can win this thing. I think a lot of y'all believe that too, right? And it's a great opportunity. But in a month, win or lose, it'll be over, right? And I'm going to be back with this question again, hopefully really energized because we got the thing done, right? But how do we remain hopeful, build power, and thrive? What does that look like, not just in this election cycle or one issue, but for years to come? Some takeaways from folks that I've been able to work with over the years that have remained really core to how I work. One is grieve the losses, you know? I think I really needed that time at the end of the year to just be really sad, and really sad about this isn't the way we thought the climate movement would go. And I think a lot of y'all who are working in these issue areas have something that you're like, oh, this is just not it. You know, people are suffering. We got to do that, but we can't do it alone. The next is to show up in community to tackle the climate crisis that exists right now. Sometimes I worry that we're being our own climate deniers, where we're not actually showing up in communities that need support and need resilience. So that means, you know, incorporating mutual aid, doing resilience workshops, showing up when that next storm comes, but also making sure communities are prepared. Build inclusive movements full of joy and care. You know, if I had come into that Beyond Cold group at UGA and I hadn't had that experience, I don't think I would have stayed, right? And I think it's really important that we take care of ourselves, we rest, and we recharge. The next is to get out of our silos and find creative ways to reach audiences. I think we realize, gosh, we're having a lot of conference calls and we're just talking to each other. We got to talk to 1 million voters, right? That's when we started saying, you know what, we got to send these mailers, we got to do things, we got to have the influencer program, we got to reach the folks that are the most impacted and stop talking to each other. I mean, y'all know what I mean, talk to each other, but don't spend 8 hours on coalition calls. Start early, elections are not one in a year. You know, I think this all led up to this, but we've been working on this for 4 years, making sure that we were cranking up the education around the PSC. And then lastly, don't hold back. Build big, bold plans to win. I think we limit ourselves sometimes. I think a lot of campaigners can relate when it's the end of the year, beginning of the year, and everybody's asking for your plans, and you're writing your plans, and you're like, I think this is just what I think I can do or what I've been able to do, instead of what does it take to win. So I really encourage us to be thinking about that, even if it doesn't happen in one election cycle or one legislative cycle. So I want to leave you all with this, kind of a long quote, but it really has been moving to me, these activists that we're talking about hope, not just as an emotion, but as a discipline and as a practice. They say, this practice of hope allows us to remain creative and strategic. It doesn't require us to deny the severity of our situation or detract from our practice of grief. To practice active hope, we do not need to believe that everything will work out in the end. We need to only decide who we are choosing to be, how we are choosing to function in relation to the outcome we desire, and abide by what those decisions demand of us. This practice of hope does not guarantee any victories against long odds, but it does make those victories more possible. So I hope all of us in this election cycle can practice active hope. Please join us. Please join us in this election if you want to talk more about it. Thank you to everybody that's been showing up for climate justice this year, and thank you so much for your time.